and that was analysis of transfer functions. Okay. So we will start with a question today. Before we look into today's question, let's look into the different transfer functions that we analyzed till now and what was the general response of such transfer functions or the systems described by such transfer functions to a unit step response, right? So our first transfer function was g of s. It was of the form g of s equals k times tau s plus 1. And we took an example of liquid level in a tank, right? So the dynamics of liquid level in a tank was described by a transfer function of this type. Then we had a transfer function g of s, which was k tau squared s squared plus 2 zeta tau s plus 1. And an example would be a spring mass system. Spring mass system. We had another transfer function of the form g of s equals k by tau 1s plus 1 tau 2s plus 1. And the concerned example was two tanks non-interacting in series. And finally, the fourth transfer function which we looked into was of the form g of s equals k psi s plus 1 upon tau 1s plus 1 tau 2s plus 1. And the relevant example was two tanks, two interacting tanks in series, right? So these were the four types of transfer functions that we looked into, and this extension can be made. We went from first order to second order and to one order system, and this extension can be made for higher order in general, nth order and PQ order systems as well. Now, what was so specific about the response of such systems? We studied that the response of such systems in general would look like this, that this is t, this is your output variable y of t. So if this is your step input function with unity gain, then we know that your first order dynamics is going to look like this. Your second order dynamics will look either like this or it would look like this. Then the dynamics in series will always be slower than the first order dynamics. And then we finally found that when you have 0 in your system, as in the last transfer function, you can as well have, due to the magnitude of the lead term, it's possible that you go up and then you come down. So these were the responses of different transfer functions. So why are we analyzing transfer functions? We are analyzing transfer functions because, like the coefficient matrix in state space domains analysis, you can have a look into the transfer function in transform domain analysis and comment upon the dynamics of the system. So let us look into this particular problem, which is here. The problem statement is very crisp, just 2 lines. So what we will do today is that we will read the statement, we will draw a relevant diagram, and then we will try to develop the model equation, and then from those model equations we will try to uh, cast the problem in transform domain modeling. We will look into the transfer function, and then we will analyze the dynamics of the system. Okay, so consider a mixing tank in which a small quantity of a liquid B is added to a large volumetric flow rate of liquid A. Okay, so the mixing tank has two input streams of liquid A and liquid B, such that the flow rate of the input stream A is much larger than the flow rate of the input stream B. Okay, further, so let us first try to draw this. Hmm, let's draw this. It's a mixing tank, two input streams. Okay, so now we have a stirrer, we have input stream A, and we have input stream B. It's a continuous system, so you will have the flow rate of A. So A in feed, this is flow rate, volumetric flow rate of A in feed, and volumetric flow rate of B in feed. Fine. So this is the information that we have been provided. Since this is a continuous system and it's a mixing tank, obviously we'll know that there is going to be another stream, which is the outlet stream. So let's see what other information that has been provided to us. A fraction x of B is fed directly to the outlet tank. A fraction x of B is fed directly to the outlet of the tank, which means that I should have something like this. Okay, and this fraction which goes directly outside is x. Let me call it as xb because this is corresponding to b. So if this is fraction, so what is going here is 1 minus xb, right? 1 minus xb, it's the fraction. Okay, now the concentration of B in the tank would be Cb. Okay, is there anything which is given to us? For the system described above, describe the response of the system to different ideal input functions. Okay, we don't have anything else. So this was the question. We have drawn this. Let the volume of the tank be V. Okay, so the volume of the liquid in the tank is V. That's all. We don't have any other information. So now we need to write the model equations. Okay, so first model equation which we will write is the material balance around the tank. Okay, so again input minus output equals accumulation. In this particular case, if there is no specific change or time variation, then at steady state what you can say is that you have at steady state FA feed is coming in. So let us write the volumetric flow balance or the overall mass balance. So F A feed FB feed is coming in, so FB feed is going to be equal to, now what's going out, so we will need to now give some notations. So let's say that this is F outlet, the overall outlet, in which the concentration of B would be simply CB, CB, okay, and you can call this as CB outlet, okay, the outlet of the tank. But then here at this junction J, let us call this junction as junction J, some amount of pure B is getting added. So therefore, what you can say is that you have final volumetric flow rate as F final and concentration of B here as CB final. So these are our notations. So what's going to happen when material balance around the tank? This is going to be equal to F outlet. F outlet, right? Now, since if anybody has any doubt or anybody finds anything objectionable or mistake, please feel free to point out. So since FA feed is much larger than FB feed, we can write F outlet is very close to FA feed, right? And again, since so I can also make a overall material balance. So let me write material balance at the junction J. What would be the balance? So you have F outlet, F outlet, which is coming in, plus XB times FB feed, right? This is coming in again from the top, and this is equal to F final, right? And from the above equation, I can write this is equal to F A feed plus XB times FB feed is equal to F final. And since FA feed is much larger than FB feed, a fraction of XB feed would be even smaller. So what I can finally write is that F outlet is similar to F final, which is similar to F A feed, right? So this is our first equation of importance. The balances were very trivial. The only observation that I made was that the volumetric flow rate of A was much larger than the volumetric flow rate of B, and that led to this approximation, right? Now, second, material balance. So now I'll do component balance, material balance for B in the tank. What's going to happen? What's going to happen to the concentration of B in the tank? So let me draw here so that I don't have to go again. So here is A, here is B, and here is the outlet. Okay. So there is no B coming from A, so that is 0. The B which is coming from this side will be equal to the volumetric flow rate of B in the feed, right? But this volumetric flow rate is 1 minus XB times the inlet flow rate, right? So then this would be and multiplied by CB feed. So this is the amount of B which is coming in, right? This is the amount of B which is coming in from here. How? The volumetric flow rate of B, but only 1 minus XB fraction is coming in multiplied by concentration. Now what is going out minus what is going out is F outlet, but F outlet is equal to FA feed times the concentration of B here, CB, which is CB. And do we have any other notation for CB here? No, just CB. It can be CB, it can be CB outlet. And this is equal to the volume of the tank times dCB by dt. dCB by dt. Okay. So this would be the balance for the component B in the tank. So let me rearrange this equation to put it in some kind of a standard form. I can write this as V upon FA feed times dCB by dt plus CB equals FB feed by FA feed times CB feed into 1 minus XB, right? This is my second model equation. I'm emphasizing that if you have any doubt at any point of time, please feel free to ask. Now, is there anything else which we can write as the model equation? What about we have not accounted anything for the outlet C final and CB final. So what's the purpose of this operation? The purpose of this operation is that you keep on adjusting. So there would be a valve here. So there would be a valve here at this junction, and you will keep on operating this valve so that you get a desired CB final concentration, right? You get a desired CB final concentration. So I have not yet accounted for CB final, right? I have not yet accounted for CB final. So let me see if I can write any equation for that. So at the junction J, so let me again write this here. This is the junction J. 1 minus X times CB feed times FB feed is coming here, right? If I am not wrong. So is it correct? 1 minus X? No, this is X. It would be just X. So this would be XB. XB, right? So this is coming here. What's coming from this side is XB times, so this would, no, so this would be CB, concentration of B times FA feed. This is coming in, right? This is coming in, and what's going out? What's going out is C final, CB final or C final. What we have used the notation CB final and F final. So CB final, CB final times F final, right? So my balance equation would be F A feed times CB plus xb, f fb feed times cb feed. It should be feed actually. CB feed, and this would be equal to FA final is same as FA feed times CB final, right? So let me rearrange this. We'll shortly see why I'm rearranging this. CB final is equal to, this will become CB. I'm dividing both sides by CA feed plus FB feed upon FA feed times XB times CB feed, right? This is my third model equation. Let's quickly look into what we have done. From this problem statement, there was a mixing tank, two streams, inlet streams A and B. Volumetric flow rate of A was much larger than volumetric flow rate of B. First point. Second point, fraction X was fed directly to the outlet. On the basis of that, we drew this diagram. Then we wrote an overall material balance, and from the condition we got that the outlet flow rate is very similar to the final flow rate, is very similar to the feed of A. Then we wrote the material balance for B coming in from to the tank minus B going out from the tank is equal to time rate of change of B. And at the junction, we again assume that the capacity of the junction is 0, so there is no d by dt term, so you get the final term, right? So let me copy paste these two important equations and let's see if I can recast it in some form. C. So I have these two equations. Okay, and now let me identify certain variables. Okay, since I have dCB by dt, obviously B CB is my dynamical variable. Okay, wherever you have d by dt term, that variable is the dynamical variable, and let me therefore, using our standard convention, denote it as x, right? From equation 3, I have so my variable of interest is the ultimate output from the tank, right? So therefore CB final is my output variable, and our standard notation for an output variable was y. Okay, and then we see that we used to write such dynamical equations as dx by dt plus, so a1 plus a0x equals b times the output variable, right? B times the input variable. So I can write the input variable. Is there a problem with 1 minus xb here? Or it is correct? No, it is correct. So I can identify this portion as my input variable. So let me denote this as FB feed upon FA feed times CB feed. I keep on changing any of these three variables. I can I can obtain, I can change the output variable. So this is my input variable, which is equal to u. We denote it as u. So can I now rewrite our equations in standard notation? Let me write down, let me identify this. Let me identify this as tau dx by dt, tau dx by dt plus x, tau dx by dt plus x equals 1 minus xb, right? 1 minus xb times u. This is my first equation for the dynamical analysis. Secondly, CB final is y equals CB is x plus CB feed, FA feed, XB. So this is CB feed, FB feed, and by FA feed. This will become XB times U, right? So this will now become this. Fine. So this is second equation. So now we have cast our problem in a suitable form so that we can use the transform domain modeling. Let me repeat that by doing this exercise, we have cast our model in the form that you can now use transform domain modeling. So I will take the Laplace transform. Obviously, I assume that you will do a steady state analysis and convert these equations to deviation variable form. That's quite trivial. So let me write down the Laplace transform. So it will be tau s, no, this will be tau of x bar of s plus x bar of s equals 1 minus xb of u bar of s, the Laplace transform of the first one. So I can write here, okay, this there should be an s here, correct. So x bar of s equals 1 minus xb upon tau s plus 1 times u bar of s, right? And then from the second equation, so this is equation 3, and from second equation, y bar of s equals x bar of s plus xb u bar of s, which means that y bar of s would be 1 minus xb upon tau s plus 1 plus xb times u bar of s. Fine. So I can write this as y bar of s by u bar of s, right? This is equal to what? 1 minus xb plus tau xb plus xb plus, no, so what this would this be? What xb plus xb tau s plus xb, yes, correct. So this goes away, divided by tau s plus 1, right? So this is equal to y bar of s upon u bar of s equals x b tau s plus 1 upon tau s plus 1, right? And I can write this as psi s plus 1 upon tau s plus 1, and this is nothing but the transfer function of the system. Interesting. Fine. So now the question is that the transfer function, the transfer function of the system has the form g of s equals psi s plus 1 upon tau s plus 1. Okay. So what is the order of the system? The order of the system is 1 1. You till now encountered situations where you had the system order as 2 1, but now in this case you have a 1 1 order system where the denominator and the numerator are both equivalent to first order systems because they are polynomials of first degree. And now what should be the uh, response of such a system? So this is what which has been asked, right? So for the system described above, describe the response of the system to different ideal input functions. So all 5 functions you will take up. For the lecture, you will take up the ideal step function to understand how the dynamics actually looks like and how does this dynamics differ from others. Okay, so before explicitly solving it for the dynamics, let's look at the characteristics of this function. Okay, so I can write this as g of s equal to this can be written as 1 upon tau s plus 1 plus psi s upon tau s plus 1, right? Fine. Okay, now this means that you have this kind of a system is similar to this kind of a system is similar to having two systems in series. Is similar to having two systems in series. One of the systems being a purely first order dynamics. One of the systems being a purely first order dynamics, right? Okay, fine. Let me also do one thing. Let me now see the effect of this part. How does this part look like? Okay. So this part has an s in the numerator and s in the denominator, right? Which means that if you have a contribution only from this particular part, you can expect the system to simply show a first order dynamics, right? Now, depending upon the magnitude of x, magnitude, not x, psi, depending upon the magnitude of psi, you can either have this part or you may not have this part, which means that the first order dynamics would be augmented, which means that the first order dynamics would be augmented by this value of psi. Okay, so let's then try to understand how would the dynamics look like. I will have y of t would be equal to Laplace inverse of for a unit step function 1 upon s, and your transfer function is psi s plus 1 tau s plus 1, right? Psi s plus 1 tau x plus 1. Fine. So let me not waste my time on doing this partial fraction and inversion. I have already done this for you. Y of t is equal to unit step function, unit gain. So no other constants would appear here. It will be 1 minus psi by tau times e to the power minus t by tau. Okay, so this is the response of the system. Okay, so this is the response of the system, and let's try to then draw the or look at the response. Now here in this particular expression, you have the function, you have the fraction x by tau, which means that you have lead time constant by lag time constant. Remember what was the effect of lag time, magnitude of lag time constant in our dynamics? The magnitude of the high magnitude of lag time constant reduces or makes the response sluggish, whereas the lead time constant makes it enthusiastic and makes the response faster. Okay, so then what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that you will have a compromise of this constant, and depending upon whether this lag is larger or lead is larger, you will get a particular behavior. So let's try to see this effect. So f of x f of x is equal to 1 minus, it is 1 minus, let me call this ratio as 1 minus a, 1 minus a e to the power minus x by time constant t. Okay, we have a system which is unit step function, unit uh, gain. Okay, so let me change these magnitudes and let me make all of them positive between 0 to 2 and between 0 to 2. Okay, now you see we have, let's forget about the transient dynamics. Let's look into first the ultimate behavior. You always had a unit step function, so therefore the system would settle to unity. Okay, the system would settle to unity. This is unity, right? So the long-term behavior is like this. But what is the, and t is the time constant. So if your time constant is small, if your time constant is small, your system dynamics would be faster. Okay, so this effect we already know. There is nothing very great or interesting in this. We already know this behavior. What we want to know is this. So let me set it to 1.25. When, so the least that it can go is it can start from 0. Okay, and a is equal to 0, a is equal to 0 in our analysis is simply the first order dynamics. Okay, because a is the ratio of psi to tau. So psi is equal to 0, you simply have the first order dynamics, which means you start from 0 and you asymptotically reach the unit step. Well, we know this, right? But what happens? What happens as you go on increasing the magnitude of psi? As you go on increasing the magnitude of psi, the system instantaneously reaches an initial value. The system instantaneously reaches an initial value, and in fact, when the lead constant is larger than the lag constant, you see an enthusiastic response that it actually overshoots and goes even above the step function which was introduced to your system, and then it realizes that okay, fine, I have gone way too far, so therefore I must return back, and it returns back to asymptotic value. Okay, so therefore what you see is a balance between first order dynamics. So let me write here. What you see here is the balance between first order dynamics. This is fine. You see here, this is first order dynamics, right? But then what kind of dynamics instantaneously results into a response of the system which is non-zero right at the beginning? We know that this is nothing but pure capacity dynamics. Okay, so in pure capacity systems, we know that what happens is that the system instantaneously follows the input function without even waiting for the transient dynamics, and therefore you immediately see the response. And this is what is happening when you have the balance, the perfect balance, which means A is equal to 1, where lead and lag constants are the same. So this response is the pure capacity response, right? So input and output look exactly the same, right? Then on this pure capacitor response, you have superimposed the first order response, right? Now the first order response, when you have a dominant lag term, looks like this, in which A is less than 1. A first order response where you have a leading term, which leading constant which is dominant, looks like this, where you go even above the imposed input, and then you slowly come down. Okay, so when you operate your tank and then you give, when you open the valve so as to instantaneously input pure amount of the component B, what's going to happen is your concentration is going to shoot up, but then eventually the concentration will die down and it will come to equilibration. And why does this happen? This happened because of this psi s plus 1 tau s plus 1 type transfer function. And because of this characteristic, which is shown here, where you go from 0 to the magnitude of the ratio, and then you either go up or go down. Because of this type of systems are called lead lag systems, which share the characteristic features of both first order as well as pure capacity systems. Now, when you have a system of this type, so let us look at a sample transfer function. So you have G of S. Let's say you have G of S, which is equal to 1 upon 5S plus 1, right? So this is an overall transfer function of your system, right? But you need to be very careful, because you not only need to look at the transfer function, you also need to look at the composition of the system. So this is the overall transfer function, right? So if this is an overall transfer function, what you need to look into is that how is the system composed of? Let's say you have a system which is a system which is composed of 2 blocks. Okay. It is composed of two blocks. So systems in series, and the first transfer function is minus of 2s plus 1 upon 5s plus 1, a lead lag system, right? The first transfer function or the transfer function of the first component corresponds to a lead lag function, lead lag system, and the second one is a pure first order system, right? So, so this is G1 of S and this is G2 of S. We saw in the previous lecture that my overall transfer function would be what? G of S, overall transfer function of G of S would be equal to G1 of S, G2 of S, right? Which is equal to minus 2s plus 1 upon 5s plus 1 multiplied by 1 upon minus 2s plus 1. Okay, which is nothing but 1 upon 5s plus 1. So you would imagine that my system actually is a first order system, and therefore the dynamics of the system should be first order monotonous dynamics going from zero deviation at the beginning of introduction of the disturbance as asymptotically to the magnitude of the step function, right? But then there are three associated time constants, right? So the three associated time constants to the system are the first time constant here, the second time constant here, and the third time constant here. See, the negative magnitude does not mean that the time is negative. The negative magnitude means that the feedback to the system is coming from a different direction. I encourage you to find out under what condition. In fact, today we will look into such a problem, but for general, you should find out that under what condition do you have the poles which are on the left hand side of the origin? When do you have the poles which are on the right hand side? When do you have zeros which are on the left hand side? When do you have zeros which are on the right hand side? And the combination. Okay, so this is something which I am leaving as an exercise for you, right? So but your overall transfer function looks like this. So now you would determine experimentally, what you would be doing is experimentally you would be determining this time constants. Have you done such an experiment to determine the time constant experimentally? I believe yes, you have done. At least students of chemical engineering, if I remember correctly, you must have done this experiment where you determine the time constant of a thermometer, where you determine the time constant for a liquid level system, and so on, right? So experimentally you would be determining the time constants and you would be substituting the values here. Now what happens is experiments have limitations. The accuracy with which you can do any experiment will almost never give you such integral values, right? So suppose you have a transfer function, you determine the transfer function of the second uh, system as a small change of the time constant, and the time constant happens to be 2.0001 s plus 1, right? A very, very, very small change. So then what will happen to the overall transfer function g of s? The overall transfer function will become minus 2 s plus 1 upon 5s plus 1 multiplied by 1 upon minus 2.0001 s plus 1. Now you see, in the previous case, the pole of the second component cancelled the zero of the first component, right? So this is called pole zero cancellation. Okay, pole zero cancellation. So the pole of a first of a component will cancel the 0 of another component. Now in this case, the poles and zeros are not cancelling each other completely, right? So let me write down the overall transfer function. The overall transfer function would be simply minus 2s plus 1 divided by this would be minus 10.123, and this will become 5s squared plus this will become 2.999 one more 9s plus 1, right? So this is your overall transfer function. So let us compare the two transfer functions. You have g, let's say g, I don't want to use 1 2, so let's go with 3 of s as this one, and g 4 of s was simply 1 upon 5s plus 1, right? What would be the response to a unit step function with unit gain? So I will write y 4 of s. I know this response is very simple, 1 minus e to the power minus t by 5. Very simple. The third one will do partial fraction. I have already done that for you. And it looks something like this. 1 minus 7 upon 7.1231 e to the power minus t by 5 minus 0.1231 upon 7.0001 e to the power t by 2.0001. Okay, so if you do the partial fraction and do a Laplace inversion, you will find this response. So let us plot this. F of x equals 1 minus e to the power minus x by 5. Well, quite expected. This is the first order response, right? Fine. Then let's see what happens to g of x. G of x. G of x was 1 minus 7 divided by 7.0001 times e to the power minus x by 5. Okay, see till this point it's all okay because 7 divided by 7.0001 will not result into any significant difference. Now the problem comes here, minus 0.1234 divided by 7.1 e to the power x divided by 2.1234. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, we see the difference now. Okay, so the case in which the expected behavior of the system was that you have a overall transfer function which resembles a first order transfer function without worrying about the composition of the system, would look something like, or you would expect the behavior something like a first order dynamics, right? But then what happens? You may end up with a completely different dynamics. You may end up with a completely different dynamics for the case where you find out that your overall transfer function, because it is constituted by individual transfer functions in which poles and the zeros cancel each other, and since you do not have a very good estimate, or you may not have a very good estimate of exact magnitudes of poles or uh, zeros, will lead to some dynamics which is very different, and depending upon the this particular factor, which means depending upon how much you are deviating from your original or correct value of poles and zeros, your dynamics can become slower or faster. Now in case your control action comes into picture within say 12 or 13 or 15 time constant units, it kicks in, it's all okay. Okay, but otherwise, if you go much larger, your system is going to deviate much more from what you would expect from the usual dynamics of the system. Okay, so this is what which makes the cancellation of poles and zeros very important. So not only you should be careful while looking into the overall transfer function, you should also worry about how the transfer function has come from the composition of the system. So we will take a small break here and we will start at 5 minutes past 12 again. There are few important announcements regarding the test, regarding the assignments which will be made towards the end of next lecture. So I would encourage you that you definitely attend the next lecture. Meanwhile, if you have any doubt or any question, please feel free to ask. Okay, so let's start. Well, on the screen you can see, in fact, I can see the names, the short forms. The MTech students might not be very well aware, but the BTech students know the short forms very well. So I see SS here, which is Professor Sonali Sengupta of our department. I see SN Sudarshan Yogi. I see SD SD Ravi Mukherjee. Professor Rai S. Rai has retired. So quite a coincidence. I hope they are not really the faculty. No, Swati Rawat. Okay, good. So let's start. Now we look into one situation in which your overall transfer function. So till now we saw the transfer functions, the overall transfer functions to be multiplication of the individual transfer functions because the transfer functions were arranged or the systems were arranged in series, either interacting or non-interacting. Now imagine that you have a situation in which the signals from various components flow like this. So you have first component, then you have a second component. Okay, and then the signals from these components flow like this, that you have this, the outlet from these individual components again meet at this junction, and then you get the output. Okay, so now in our input output model, your overall system would look something like this, right? So what's going to happen is then you have an input. This is U bar of S. You have an output which is Y bar of S, right? And then your individual transfer functions are G1 of S and G2 of S. Now, what is the effect of these individual components? The effect of the first component is to amplify the signal, whereas the effect of the second component is to do the other way around, to do its reverse, to suppress the signal, right? So then what's going to happen if I write my model in overall transform domain modeling, then I can write G1 of S in this case G of S. This will be equal to G1 of S minus G2 of S. Okay, G1 of S minus G2 of S, which means I can write G of S, the overall transfer function, and if the individual components are first order, then I can write here this as K1 tau 1S plus 1 minus K2 tau 2S plus 1. Okay. Now this mode, which has the additive effect, is called the main mode. Main mode. Okay, because this is what is governing the dynamics of the system, and it is helping the system maintain the dynamics, or it is helping the system carry on, right? But the other one, which has with a negative sign, is called the opposition mode. So let me write here. It's called the opposition mode because it is opposing the usual dynamics of the system, right? So then let's see how would the dynamics of such a system with such individual components be governed. Okay, so I can write here y bar of s equal to u bar of s g1 of s minus u bar of s g2 of s, right? So I know g1 and g2, so therefore I can write this as y bar of s equals k1 upon s tau 1 s plus 1 minus k2 s tau 2 s plus 1, right? In other words, I can write y of t as the Laplace transform of, since Laplace transforms are linear, I can split them. So Laplace inverse of k1 s tau 1 s plus 1 minus Laplace inverse of k2 upon s tau 2 s plus 1. And this is just simply the first order response of the system to a unit step function. We have assumed, or you can make it more general and put a step of magnitude a. So I know the solution of these individual units. So I know that y of t would be equal to a k1 1 minus e to the power minus t upon tau 1 minus a k2 1 minus e to the power minus t upon tau 2. Right? Fine. Okay. So now the question is that if the transfer function is of the above form, then what would be the ultimate response of the system? Okay, so if the transfer function is of the above form, what would be the ultimate response? So ultimate response is like this: limit t tends to infinity, y of t equals, now you have e to the power minus t term, so this will go to 0 as t tends to infinity. Similarly, for the second term, the exponential term will become 0, so I will have a times k1 minus k2. This is my ultimate response, right? So what do I understand? What I understand from this is this, that if I provide the system with a unit step function of with a step function of magnitude a with gains k1 and k2, so then what will happen? K1 times a would be your ultimate response if only, so for only g1 of s. G1 of s. K2 would be the response K2 of A only for G2 of S, right? But here K2 will become negative, this gain because of the negative sign. So the overall, where did it go? So the overall will be A times K1 minus K2, assuming K1 is greater than K2. Okay, so this is going to be your overall response. So what's going to happen now? You need to look into you need to know one thing, that till now we were focusing on the dynamics in terms of the fastness or slowness or sluggishness of the response. We did not bother pretty much on about the ultimate magnitude of the response. Now you have a system in which you have a main mode which supports the dynamics. You have an opposition mode which does not support the dynamics, rather it opposes the dynamics. So what's going to happen to the overall gain of the system? The overall gain of the system is going to be K1 minus K2, and the ultimate magnitude of the response would be the gain, the effective gain, which is K1 minus K2 times the magnitude of the step function which has been imposed, right? Okay, fine. Let's do another thing. What is going to be important for us is this function. So let us copy paste. So this is your ultimate response. Okay. So now what is going to happen as I take the derivative? So dy by dt. Okay. What is dy by dt? dy by dt at time t is equal to 0. Okay. What's going to happen to the derivative? This is going to be equal to K1. Let me see if I am correct. K1 divided by tau 1, correct, minus or plus minus K2 upon tau 2. K2 upon tau 2. Right? K2 upon tau 2. This is the derivative of your response at time t is equal to 0. Okay. Now you see here, we have K1 which is greater than K2. This is known. This is known. But what about tau 1 and tau 2? There is no comment on this, right? So if we see the response of every single input which has been given like this, what was traditionally the response, or dy by dt? Dy by dt was always positive and it settled to a value 0. So let's see, let's write here t dy by dt. Dy by dt always had a positive value and it asymptotically reached the value 0 as time tended to infinity. Okay, for let's say first order as well as other orders also, right? You see here, always it had positive slope and the slope kept on becoming lesser and smaller and smaller and smaller, and ultimately as t tends to infinity the slope became 0. Now in this particular case the slope dy by dt, it can be greater than 0 or less than 0. It would be greater than 0 if k1 by tau 1 is greater than k2 by tau 2. And it would be less than 0 if k1 by tau 1 is less than k2 by tau 2. Right? Now you imagine that this is a funny situation. Why would this be a funny situation? Let's see. You have an input which goes like this, right? So what should be the ultimate response? You have two conditions. The first condition is that when k1 by tau 1 is greater than k2 by tau 2, the derivative is positive. The derivative is positive means that you would start from here. So this is y of t and this is t. You would be having a positive derivative and you would ultimately reach here. Fine. But what about the second situation? The second situation is that the derivative is negative, which means k1 by tau 1 is less than k2 by tau 2. And when this happens, the derivative is negative, which means that you start going down. Right? Now, where is the ultimate destination that you need to reach? What happens at time t tends to infinity? At time t tends to infinity, well, you know that the value is this much, right? And now this term doesn't have tau, so k1 is greater than k2, so it's a positive value, so you always will end up here. What is going to happen is that you are going to end up here, right? So now the point is that you do not need to worry about the fate of your system as t tends to infinity. You do not need to worry about the fate of the system as t tends to infinity. It will always reach here asymptotically. But now the question is, initially, whereas your step was positive and you should have expected the system to go and respond in a positive manner, the system starts responding negative. But of course, it would realize sooner or later that it's going in a wrong direction, and therefore you, because you have to reach here, you expect that there would be an inversion and you will reach here asymptotically, right? So now you see here, this is so the direction of input. This is the direction of input. And what is the direction of your response? The direction of your response is this. Direction of response. Right? So the situation is both funny as well as dangerous, because imagine that you're flying a plane and the plane is coming down, and then you try to adjust your control surfaces such that you want the plane to go up and again maintain a particular altitude. Now when you try to adjust the control planes on your aeroplane, instead of going up, they further start going down, right? The situation is like this, that you want to go up, you direct the plane to go up, and the plane starts going down further, right? Now, if you have enough space or if you have enough altitude, you know that your control system would invert its direction somewhere. So if this is your flight path, and your flight has started coming down, you applied a control system. Instead of going up, it further started going down, and then following this particular diagram, it would again start going up if you have sufficient altitude left down. Otherwise, what's going to happen? Otherwise, what's going to happen is that your plane is going to crash. Okay, so now while your behavior of the system at the extremities of time is quite reassuring that okay, you don't need to worry, your system will ultimately reach the appropriate response which was expected out of a step unit step response. The intermediate response is something which is very crucial. Now this can be also imagined to be a situation with a chemical reactor where you want to cool down the reactor. Right now I don't claim, I'm just giving a hypothetical situation because the model equations may not be supporting it in this manner. I'm just trying to make you appreciate the situation that you're trying to cool down the reactor, and what's happening is that before cooling down the reactor temperature is shooting up. Now as a control engineer or as a process engineer, you would think that okay, fine, ultimately since I have implemented my control system, it's going to reach a control temperature. But before it reaches the control temperature, the temperature of the reactor is going to shoot up. Now you need to know what are the design temperatures and pressures according to which your shell thickness of your reactor was decided, right? If that temperature supersedes or exceeds the design temperature pressure, then what's going to happen is that your reactor is going to blow up. So therefore, you need to be very careful when you get a response or when you get your transfer function which looks like this, and such systems are called inverse response systems, where the initial response of your system where the initial response of the system is in the in a direction which is opposite to the direction in which the input was provided. Okay, and then why does this happen? Let's see, why does this happen? This happens because of this condition. K1 by tau 1 is less than K2 by tau 2. Okay, that means what's going to happen? You have two competitive processes. One process which supports the dynamics, and that is signified by the index 1, K1 and tau 1. There is one process which is supporting the dynamics to go in a direction of the change of uh, applied change to the system. And then there is something which is opposing the dynamics. So now if the opposition is faster, you see you have tau, which is the time constant which is in the denominator. So if the opposition is faster than your main mode, then what's going to happen? The effect of opposition would be more pronounced compared to the effect of the applied mode. But since everything is exponential here, you see everything is in the exponential function. So then what's going to happen? Ultimately, as t tends to infinity, everything would gain this magnitude which was written here, this magnitude. Okay, so a larger magnitude will also result in larger or steeper decay of that particular effect. Okay, so therefore you have two modes, the main mode and the opposition mode, and depending upon the individual magnitudes of the time constants, you may, now this is not always true, this is important, you may expect or experience an inverse response, or you may not experience an inverse response. Okay, so now let's see. We have GS equals K1 tau 1s plus 1 minus K2 tau 2s plus 1, right? Which means this is equal to tau 1s plus 1 tau 2s plus 1. This will be K1 times tau 2s plus 1 minus k2 times tau 1s plus 1, right? Which means you have k1 tau 2 minus k2 tau 1 s plus k1 minus k2 upon tau 1s plus 1 tau 2s plus 1. Okay, and therefore I can see this overall transfer function as our transfer function of the form k psi s plus 1 divided by tau 1s plus 1 tau 2s plus 1. Okay, have we seen this transfer function before? Yes, we have seen this transfer function before. Okay, so therefore again we learn the same lesson which we learned from our previous example, that it's not sufficient to look into the transfer function and comment upon the entire dynamics of the system. You should also know how the transfer function has been constituted. Because if you look at this transfer function and if you look into the lecture, the previous lecture, this is like 2-1 order system. So therefore you will have not only a dynamics which is monotonous in correct direction, but it may as well have an over enthusiastic dynamics that it may overshoot the applied input. But then you get the same transfer function. You get the same transfer function from uh, this particular two subsystem process, where you find that the constitution of the system is such that you have a main mode and then you have a opposition mode, and therefore you can expect an entirely different dynamics of the system. Okay, okay, now you see psi here is a function of this, right? k1 tau 2 k2 tau 1, fine, and depending upon k1 k2 tau 1 tau 2, psi can be positive or psi can be negative, right? As we wrote above. Okay, psi can be positive, psi can as well be negative. So let us look at a particular transfer function g of s, which is k times minus eta s plus 1. To signify negative psi, we have used eta tau 1s plus 1 tau 2s plus 1. Fine. So what will we do? We will take the inverse Laplace of k minus eta s plus 1 upon s tau 1s plus 1 tau 2s plus 1. Okay, you will take the inverse Laplace transform of this particular transform, and then what will you get? I have done that for you. Y of t is going to be equal to ak 1 plus eta plus tau 1 upon tau 2 minus tau 1 e to the power minus t upon tau 1 plus eta plus tau 2 upon tau 1 minus tau 2 e to the power minus t upon tau 2. Okay, this is the response of the system. So as limit t tends to infinity, as limit t tends to infinity, what happens? You get the same thing. This term goes to 0, this term goes to 0, right? So therefore you get a k, where k is k2 minus k1. So we know that this is going to be the ultimate response of the system, right? But now how does the system, how does the actual or complete dynamics of the system look like? Let's try to write it down. F of x equals f of x is equal to 1 plus, we will not worry about a, k and all those things, eta. So let's say, let's make it ABC. So C plus A divided by B minus A e to the power minus x by A plus this will become C plus B. This will become A minus B, and this will become B. Yes, see here, I didn't have to change much. You can clearly see the response right from here. Of course, what you will have to do is, you will have to, there are 3 parameters in this case. So in all these cases you can see that your ultimate response is unity. As time t tends to infinity, your ultimate response always goes like this. But so let us make it even more sharper. You can compare the ratios of B by A, C by A by C, and so on. But what you can see qualitatively from here is that it is possible that you can get an inverse response, and this inverse response, depending upon the uh, and then let's see, there is some interesting thing which is going on here. In this expression, eta corresponds to your 0. Eta corresponds to your 0, right? And tau 1 and tau 2 correspond to poles. And in general, for any dynamics, what is the importance of zeros and poles? Poles make the dynamics sluggish, zeros make the dynamics fast, right? Now you see here, C is a 0. So as I increase the value of C, now the dynamics becomes faster, although on the reverse direction. So the effect of 0 of on the dynamics of any system is that whether inverse or not, it would make the response faster. Okay, and in fact it overshoots the -1. Okay, so as I go on increasing the magnitude, the response not only becomes faster, it also increases in magnitude, and then it goes in an inversion. As and the A and B here correspond to tau 1 and tau 2, and as I increase the magnitude of tau 1 and tau 2, you see that the responses become sluggish. We will not worry about the negative values, the responses become sluggish here. Okay, so this is the response of the system for an inverse order system, inverse response system. Okay, so what do we conclude overall from this entire response? Okay, and before we conclude anything, we can also do one more thing. This is y of t, right? So y of t has an inversion in the slope, so it goes like this, right? So the slope inverts here. How will you determine the inversion of the slope? By determining the second derivative. Okay, so you determine the second derivative, from where you can determine the inversion. So I leave this analytical exercise for you to do. So from the dynamics of the systems in transform domain, what do we conclude? The first thing that we conclude is that the transfer function is a very important quantity to know or have an idea about the dynamics of a system. Second thing, as you go on increasing the number of poles in the transfer function, which means you go on increasing the order of the system, the dynamics becomes more and more sluggish. The dynamics becomes faster and at times over enthusiastic when you add zeros to the system. Then you can have a first order system in which you can have pure capacity or pure gain system depending upon the magnitude of the time constant. For a second order system, it is possible that you have oscillations in your system. It is also possible that you have monotonous behavior. But if the second order transfer function is obtained by combination of first order transfer functions, then you will never observe oscillations in your system. Then we saw that there can be a one order system, which is also called lead lag system, in which your transfer function is of the form zeta s plus psi s plus 1 by tau s plus 1. And then what you should know is that it is made up of a combination of a first order response and a pure gain response. Now similar first order dynamics can or transfer function can be obtained from the combination of two first order systems, or a first order system and a lead lag system, such that you get the cancellation of poles and zeros, and in such a system the ultimate dynamics can vary in a very different manner depending upon how accurately you determine the zeros and poles. And finally, you can have the transfer function. You can have transfer function which gives rise to inverse response of the system, such that the direction of your response is opposite to the direction of the forced input. Okay, and even in case of inverse response, the qualitative features of the system remain the same, that addition of zero makes the response more drastic and addition of poles make the response slower. So these were several of the features that I wanted to discuss for uh, the dynamics of analysis of dynamics of system in transform domain modeling. Now, with the advent of computers, it has become important to understand that and analyze the dynamics in discrete domain the way we did for state space analysis. So what are we going to do in the next lecture is that we are going to start our analysis in dynamics analysis of the dynamics in discrete domain. Okay, so we will stop here today. If you have any queries or questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.